to traveling secretary, ended up running the organization, ended up going to the Titans and almost won a Super Bowl there. He's back in town. He's going to be doing a show on the network called Jeff Diamond's NFL and Vikings Insider. So welcome, Jeff. Before we get going with Jeff, I want to say thank you to Tony Hoaglund, your State Farm agent Champlin, Hoaglund. Tony handles my insurance. I can highly recommend him. Also, if you listen to the programs, please download if you can. It's a better listening experience. It's also good for us. And if you'd like to sponsor this program, Jeff's, or any others on the network, email me, jsouhan47@gmail.com. So let's first thank Tony. Brandon?
Hey, Minnesota sports fans. This is your local State Farm agent, Tony Hoaglund. I need you all to ask yourselves this question. If you're in an at-fault car accident and you are sued for $700,000, how much of that $700,000 will my current insurance company pay? If you are unsure or can't answer all $700,000, you need to give us a call. State Farm has been number one in car insurance since World War II and number one in homeowners insurance since 1964. For a no-obligation review of your current policies, call us at 763-421-4900 or check out our website at www.champlininsurance.com.
And now let's welcome Jeff in. Thanks for coming out, Jeff. Wanted to kind of introduce you to our audience. It'll be really cool to have another Viking show on the network. And obviously, I was telling, Tim's out covering the Vikings every day. He gets down to the granular level. He knows everything that's going on throughout the organization. You're going to offer the executive view, the historical view. You're going to tell us funny stories about Jim McMahon and Bud Grant and everything else. So first of all, welcome, and thanks for being here.
Well, thanks, Jim. Now, first of all, we have to clarify, did we call it Jeff Diamond's Vikings and NFL Insider or NFL and Vikings?
You're asking me to think clearly, and that's just not going to happen late
I
in the
thought
week.
we put the Vikings ahead of the
Let's
NFL.
go.
Shouldn't we do that, Tim?
Here we probably should, yeah.
Yes.
We just did.
Heck yeah.
I just changed it right here, so it's
Good.
official now.
Good.
Jeff Diamond's Vikings and NFL. Pardon me?
A lot of bureaucracy to cut through.
Yeah, it's a tough organization to deal with. I know.
That's it. That'll work.
I'm going to start by putting both of you on the spot before we get into some more details here. Vikings record this season. Knowing that we're all going to be wrong, how wrong are we going to be? Who wants to take that on first?
I'll take it.
Let's go.
Okay, I'm going to say 11-5, and I think the team may well be as good as last year's team. The schedule's a lot tougher, and I'm talking about especially week 4 and 5. I think it's back-to-back at L.A. on a Thursday night, and I think they can handle the Rams. They handled them pretty well last year, but a short week is tough. Really tough, and especially with travel to the West Coast. And then following that, they have a break, but then they go to Philadelphia, which would be a tough game too.
Especially if you're a fan.
Yeah, and then I think all right. And then there's was it week 13 and 14 or something like that? It's at New England, at Seattle, and at Seattle on a Monday night.
Yeah,
and not that the Seahawks are any great shakes, but they've still got Russell Wilson. And the Patriots, I don't know who Tom Brady's going to throw to.
Julian Edelman will be back by then.
Yeah, he'll be back by then, yeah. But those are tough trips, and then you throw a trip into Lambeau next week. So that's 5 really difficult road games, and I'm going to say 11-5. But I think it's still going to be good enough to win the division.
Yep. I'm going to go 10-6. I'm going there because, number one, as Jeff said, the schedule is much more difficult. I think the Packers have a much easier schedule than the Vikings do. And also because I think it will take some time for Kirk Cousins to get comfortable. I think it'll take time for the offensive line to come together. And I do think eventually that will happen. But those first 5 games, I've talked about them a lot. If they come out of those at 2-3 or better, I think they're on their way. But it is that opening schedule that kind of would concern me with all the new moving parts with this new offensive coordinator, new quarterback, uncertain offensive line, and the tough schedule all combined.
I'm going to say 3-2 of those first 5.
3-2,
really? They're going to split those games with the Rams and the Eagles, and they can handle Buffalo here, and they can handle San Francisco here at Lambeau. Hey, maybe 4-1. How's that sound?
Yeah, but we just got done talking about San Francisco, and I don't think that's quite the cakewalk that people are thinking it might be, because I do think that they should win, but I don't think it's, hey, just go out and handle them.
No, we talked about that today on the podcast, and I think the key to that game is handling Jimmy Garoppolo, making him uncomfortable in the pocket. He's 7-0 as a starter. They believe in him, so they've really got to put the heat on him, and I think that's going to happen. I think that the Vikings defensive line, the pressure's on them, and especially in an opener when they haven't played a full game yet. So it's not only on Everson Griffin and Neil Hunter, it's on some of the backups like Weatherly and those guys to be able to make an impact, because they're guys like Sheldon Richardson aren't going to play the whole game.
Yep.
And so I think it's going to be a good test, but I think the 49ers have some weaknesses in that back seven on defense that the Vikings can exploit. They're really tough up front, 3 first-round picks of recent years up front, and I think Cousins will be okay. I think they'll protect him in this game, try to run the ball a little bit, and with Dalvin Cook and with Murray, and then maybe some short passing stuff, and then we'll see. But, yeah, I think it's always a wild card in an opener because you just don't know. Guys have not played a full game yet. The 49ers, they've got confidence, but I think that 5-game winning streak at the end of last year was a little bit of a mirage because they were playing teams that either had clinched playoffs or whatever the case may be. They were out of it at that point, and so, they improved definitely. Kyle Shanahan's had a lot of time to study that Philadelphia game. I'm a little nervous about that. I'm a little nervous about the Vikings' offensive line depth.
Yep.
I'm a little nervous about Daniel Hunter, but I think they got enough stuff going that they can get this thing done.
Daniel Carlson, you're the kicker?
Daniel Carlson, I'm sorry.
And, to me, the one interesting thing to watch is the Vikings as a defense, obviously first in the league last year, but I think where they become frustrated in certain games is when it's a quick passing game, and they can't get to the quarterback, and Zimmer can't blitz as much as he wants to. So that to me is going to be the chess match to watch. You've got Jimmy Garoppolo there. How much do you blitz this guy when you already know he likes to get it out of his hands quickly? And that I think the 49ers are going to have to be very patient. They're going to have a short passing game that just sort of gets the ball down the field a little bit at a time, and maybe occasionally take the big chunk play that might be there with Marquise Goodwin, who I think is a good receiver who's really came into his own when Jimmy started starting for them at the end of last year.
Yeah, he can run, and I think you're right. I think it's going to be interesting. I think if they stop the run, that's a key in this game.
Yep.
And Jim and I talked this morning, and I made the analogy to the Rams game last year when they came in here, kind of with a hot young quarterback and a big-time running back, and Todd Gurley and Jared Cook, and they shut them down. Cook threw no touchdown passes. Gurley, they held to 37 yards rushing. If they can have that kind of formula, especially with a young quarterback at U.S. Bank Stadium for his first visit with the noise and all that, I think they can get the W and get it done. And, Daniel Carlson, because my concern is that you look at the other side, Robbie Gould is pretty good. 39 out of 41 last year.
He's really, and that's not in perfect conditions all the time either.
Yep.
The interesting thing about Garoppolo is the Vikings spent all summer messing with different ways to rush the passer, playing with Anthony Barr, putting his hand on the ground, thinking of different ways to be more aggressive. And now they're facing a quarterback who's at his best statistically when he faces blitz. So you play with all those ideas all summer, and then your first game plan is, maybe we better not do that.
Well, right, but they are going to get to those sort of things
eventually. Yes,
they'll get into when it gets into 3rd and long. I would not be at all surprised to see Anthony Barr up on the putting a hand down, rushing, and maybe you have Eric Wilson coming in and taking his spot at linebacker. Or the other interesting thing that they've looked at a little bit is 3 safeties in the game. So you have Andrew Sandeo and Harrison Smith. Now maybe you have Jaron Kearse in there or George Iloka in there. 3 safeties, and just kind of keep everything in front on 3rd and long and let them catch. You don't want to let them catch it, but You're more willing to do that, have your safeties come up and tackle before they hit the stick.
And send Harry the Hitman after Garoppolo, right?
There you go.
Right. Now, Tim, are you going to be covering some of our 98 team reunion this weekend?
Yeah, that's going to be
kind of fun. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah,
seeing a lot of the guys from that team.
Do you know who's all going to be there for that?
I know there's a ton of guys that are going to be there from there, and I'm doing some kind of chalk talk on Saturday.
Cool, nice.
And we're doing an intro on the field on Sunday, which will be fun. It would just be fun to see that whole group and so many great memories of that season. A lot of great memories, a couple bad ones, such as the way it ended.
Yeah, but I would say that's the main bad one.
But 15-1 was still pretty good.
It was just so much fun to watch that team. If you remember, it was because let's face it, there are people who just like defense. They like these muddy, ugly games. Most of us want to be entertained when we watch football, and that was about as entertaining as you could get.
Yeah.
Yeah, you set an NFL record for points scored, which I think the Patriots.
Yep, they
broke that record with Randy Moss,
yeah.
right. But it was a terrific year, exciting year, and just like I said, a lot of great memories, and looking forward to seeing a lot of those guys again. And I've seen a lot of them in recent years at Hall of Fame inductions I've been fortunate enough to be at.
Right.
Guys like John Randall and Chris Dolman and Chris Carter and Randall McDaniel. And so it'd be fun to see. I guess a few of those guys were not on that 98 team, but most of them were.
Right.
Yeah, Matt Burke.
Yeah. So let's ask this difficult question now that you've given me your season predictions. Is this one of the better rosters in Vikings history?
Ooh. Boy, overall, I mean, 98, you look at it was so stacked on the offensive side, and you had a few guys on the defensive side. You had Johnny Randall, you had Robert Griffith, I think, was still there.
Yep.
And Eddie McDaniel.
They lacked depth at corner, though,
Yep.
and probably didn't have they didn't have the defensive talent this team did.
Right.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, but the offensive talent was spectacular, and the offensive line was spectacular.
Yeah.
Yes.
To me, that was the underrated
difference.
part
Yeah.
of the 98 team was, everybody knew about Moss, Carter, Reed, Robert Smith, Randall Cunningham, Brad Johnson. That offensive line, when you go back and look at even some of the Randy Moss highlights, and you see some of the holes that were open during those games for Robert Smith, it was incredible. Or the protection that Randall Cunningham had to stand back there and pat the ball 3 times before launching it 50 yards down.
Or Randall McDaniel, the great sight was Randall McDaniel out in front of Robert Smith on a screen.
Yeah. Yep.
That was something.
Yeah, definitely. And there were just terrific talent on that offensive line. Todd Stussy, another guy, was a great player at left tackle, and just you think about all the players that were part of that team offensively, and just so explosive. And I remember going to that draft and we're thinking, wow, well we've got Chris Carter, we've got Jake Reed. They were both 1,000-yard receivers in '97 and '96, and we don't necessarily need a wide receiver. And Randy Moss is not going to fall to number 21 in the first round.
Right.
And so we're looking at defense, and all of a sudden Randy's to fall. And that was just a thrilling time. That draft room was as electric as any draft room I was ever involved in 28 years in the league. Just seeing what happened that day and how that all came about. And it was a big thrill to see it unfold the way it did. And obviously Randy had a phenomenal year with 17 touchdown receptions. And
I was going to ask you about that draft. Like, as Moss is going down the board, and he's obviously said in the past he thought, or he was told by the Cowboys that they were going to draft him. What was your reaction? What was Denny Green's reaction as this is all unfolding and he's getting closer and closer?
Yeah, I think Denny was more confident really all along that it was going to happen, and Frank Gilliam and Jerry Redcon and Scott Sauer saying there's no way.
Yeah.
He's a top 5 talent in this draft and one of our top-rated players on the board overall. Now he had some character questions, but still, we thought no way. And as it started to unfold, we thought, wow, this could happen. And then what kind of clinched it for me as a GM was when we were getting very close, and we had several defensive players on the board, and Bounty Holiday was one of the guys we were looking at. I think he went right before. But what really clinched it for me that we were going to take him was when we got Chris Carter on the phone and said, Chris, will you agree to mentor Randy in his rookie year and help him adjust and with some of the questions that were out there about him? And Chris said, absolutely. He knew what kind of talent he was and what kind of impact he could make on our offense. So it was just a phenomenal story how it all unfolded, and I was very fortunate to be there that year. That was my last year in Minnesota. And then the next year I'm down in Tennessee, and we draft Javon Curse, and he's Rookie of the Year. So I had 2 straight Rookies of the Year, and fortunately the next year in Tennessee we got to the Super Bowl. So that was an exciting experience too.
So what happens if Chris Carter says, no, I don't want to mentor him?
Exactly.
What do you do?
Well, I think we say, Chris,
Tough. You're mentoring him.
He's coming anyway. You better put up with him.
I like it.
Can you imagine how different it would have been? Okay, Chris doesn't want to do that. Well, okay, we'll move Chris, and now we got Reed and Moss are here.
Right. Jake would have done it for me.
Yeah,
Jake
for sure.
would have done it. Favorite, and I'm going big picture because it's kind of fun to have you both here, and we've all been around the Vikings for so many years. Give me your favorite Viking character or personality.
Mine would be John Randall.
Okay.
Yeah, just as a character and just the studying of a media guide to insult the offensive lineman you're going at. I just love that sort of stuff.